So, I have a new concept again. And these are going to be called Fragrant Fireside Chats. Not really anything specific to a house or to a note. Just, discussions about fragrance in general. And we do have a makeshift fireside here. And appropriately, it's a fragranted candle. This is a New England favorite, Yankee Candle. This is Farmer's Market. Nice little, sort of fruity, smells like a New England Farmer's Market, which is why I like it. Grew up here, so it's nice. So we'll use this as our fireside. Anyways, today's topic is going to be the much discussed, much argued about niche versus designer. Now, there's been a lot of videos on this. There's been a lot of discussion on YouTube, Facebook, Base Notes, everywhere you go. This is an age-old discussion and probably will never end. I'm not really trying to end the discussion with this. These are just my 2 cents. And I'm just winging it here. I don't have any notes prepared on this. I did put together some fragrances, which I will show you in a minute. But this is not, I'm just really just speaking off the top of my head as I go through these. I have some slightly different opinions than some on this topic. I started out as a designer person, mostly because of the price and availability. I do live in a big city, so there are quite a few places where I can get niche scents. There's very few brands that I can't find in Boston. I think the only big one that a lot of people know about that I can't get here is something like a Montal. That's the one that seems to be nowhere. That and the Dior exclusive line. Those two. Hard to find. But just about everything else, Creed, Bond, Tom Ford, Joe Malone, Annick Goutal, you name it. They're around here. Serge Lutens. Oh, Le Labo. That's the one I can't get here. The Barney's in Boston does not carry Le Labo. So, that's another big one that I can't get here. But, nonetheless, I did start out with designers, and I did make a lot of purchases that today I wish I hadn't. I do have a lot of junk that I don't wear anymore that I've been trying to get rid of, and really I can't because rightfully nobody wants to buy them. But just because I have a lot more niche doesn't necessarily mean that I only wear it. I have more bottles of designer than I do niche, obviously, because they're more expensive. But I only do splits of niche because it's really not, it's kind of cost-effective wise. It's stupid to split a designer. Plus, they don't make them in big enough bottles that it makes any sense to do it. So, with that being said, what I did was I went through my collection and tried to find good examples of my overall thoughts on designer versus niche. Now, when it comes to designer, obviously the advantage is price. You're not going to pay a lot compared to niche for a full bottle. If you're paying more than $80-85 for a 100 ml designer bottle, you're pushing it. It's starting to get into either overpriced or not niche, or not designer rather. Obviously niche bottles that cost more, so they're a little bit more price exclusive to people. But my thought is, with a niche, there are more requirements in order to get me to buy it. There are more things that I look for. I'm a lot more picky with them. But the flip side of that is, generally with a niche, when they get it right, it's a home run. And it's really good. You can really find yourself a great, great fragrance. You might have to pay a little bit more for it, but you can find yourself something that is just an awesome, unique scent that only you are going to be wearing, or you and maybe a very select group of others. And you can really do yourself well with that. So let me give you some examples first of niche bottles that I think really underscore what's great about niche. Start with the good side. I have 3 examples here. First one is West Side from Bond. Now, this one, obviously, it's quite expensive. It's about $230 for a 100 ml bottle. This is from a split. What you get in this is a very classy scent. There are ingredients in here and a combination of things you're not going to find in a designer. This smells like very high-class wine. It's a very unique blend of rose, sandalwood, some boozy notes, some florals. There's a whole lot of stuff in here. But you're not going to find this in a designer. You really cannot find it. And if anybody has found a designer bottle that smells a lot like this, let me know. But I have not found it. And it lasts. Big thing for me with niche is it has to last. If it dies out in 3 or 4 hours, not worth it to me. This one I easily get through a full day with. Good solid 8 to 10 hours, often more. Once something for me hits 8 hours and it's going strong, that's when it gets a passing grade in my book, because I'm not really going to be wearing it for too much longer than 8 to 10 hours anyways. So, one example here. Very unique scent. I love it. This one's on the safer side. It is a little bit feminine, but it's not a lot of out there notes. There's nothing in here that's really weird, really ridiculous, which I will get to with this next bottle. There's no label on it, but this is Tom Ford's Moss Bresh. This is actually a tester bottle that was given to me. They had to take the sticker off of it, but Moss Bresh. Now, is this the best fragrance out there? No. Is this one of the most unique fragrances I've ever smelled? Absolutely. You will not get this in a designer. Will not. I will predict to you that you never will. There's a reason this was discontinued, because even this was too odd for a niche market. This is a very, very, very weird complexion of oak moss. Whew. Gosh, there's a lot in there. Basically on the top it smells like a mossy tree. Then it dies down into some really nice spices, some cinnamon, some I can't remember off the top of my head. But point here is that this is something that when Tom Ford created this, or whoever the perfumer was, they were given a clean slate. They weren't given... This was not designed and produced with the mass market consumer in mind. This was not even produced with a common niche customer in mind. This was produced to be something different, to be something new, and something that hasn't been done before. Now, it might not have been commercially successful, but they were incredibly successful in creating something that hadn't been done before. And to me, that is a mark of a quality niche scent. If they do something that hasn't been done before and is really taking a dare, taking a shot at something different. A lot of people don't like this. Rightfully so, it can be very turned off. Much of a turn off to a lot of people. But lasts long, get great longevity out of this, and it's different, it's new, and you can't get it anywhere else. That's the mark of a quality niche bottle. Another example here. This one is a little bit more safe, obviously. This is Green Irish Tweed. Now, of course, there are 1,000 knockoffs of GIT. And this certainly is not... There's nothing in there that is terribly off the wall. There's no really odd notes in there. But what they did when they created this a long time ago, I think it was 85 when it came out, was they created literally about as perfect of a spring and summer, spring, not very hot summer day scent as you can get. And there's a reason why this was knocked off so many times. is because it really is just the epitome of a quality scent. Even the knockoffs, I know a lot of people say you can just buy cool water, it's the same thing. Personally, I can smell a difference. They are very similar. This one smells a lot cleaner, a lot higher quality, less synthetic. It's another thing with niche scents. If you get that really just kind of sharp synthetic, you can obviously tell it's fake. That's not good. You don't get it with this. And there's a reason why this has become so popular. So, those are examples of quality niche bottles. Things that are worth the label. Now, let's get into some that really just don't do the job for me. This is one. A lot of you know I'm a big Tom Ford fan, but with this one, Azure Lime, he swung and missed. Big time. Why? A couple of things. One, longevity. Terrible. Awful longevity. This dies on me in 3 hours, if that. Two, really, it's just a concoction of boring notes. It's a lime fragrance. It's lime, some watery notes. It's nice, but I can get this elsewhere. And I can get it done better elsewhere. You can get Green Irish Tweed elsewhere, but you're not going to get it better than this. You're not going to get it better than what you have here. And it was the original, so that makes it better. This did not expound on anything. When this came out, it wasn't like, wow, look what he did with limes. This is totally new and different. No, it was the same thing. It didn't make it any better. It didn't create a new combination. It wasn't a new spin on a fruity fragrance. It was bland. It was boring. It doesn't last. Not worth it. A couple other ones here. These are 2 Montals. That's Attar. This is Oud Rose Petals. My problem with Montal is, as you know, as others have said, you smell one, you smell them all. These smell exactly alike. Almost identical. And they smell identical pretty much to Black Oud. So, while Black Oud in itself is certainly a very niche-worthy fragrance, they start releasing all these that are redundant and the same. You don't need them. They're worthless releases. While it may be niche juice, it would be like if they took, Moss Bresh and made 3 or 4 or 5 others that are exactly the same. Or that maybe change one note, which is almost indecipherable. You don't need it. These are examples of bad niche fragrances that they may last longevity-wise, and they may include ingredients that are very natural, very good. Problem is, they've already been done. They're redundant. They're not new. Not even new to their own house. So, again, examples of bad niche fragrances. And when you get a bad niche fragrance, the difference with bad niche and bad designer is with bad niche, you're paying more. So the expectations are much higher. So when you get something that doesn't last, my view on longevity is a lot of people will say, well, you just reapply it. No. I'm not buying a niche fragrance to reapply it every 3 hours. It'd be like buying a Lamborghini with a 4-cylinder engine. If I'm buying a Lamborghini, I want it to go fast. I'm paying a lot of money. I want it to be a top quality product. If I'm buying a niche fragrance, I want it to last. I don't want to reapply it every 3 hours. 4-cylinder engine, 4 hours. No go. All right, let's move over to the designer end. With designers, the threshold for what I'm looking for is a little bit different. I'm paying less, so I don't expect quite the same as you do with a niche. But the advantage with a designer is when you get something that's good, when you get something that's unique, which is harder to find, when you get it, it's a great buy, and you haven't paid a lot of money for it either. So, some examples of that. This one has been talked about nonstop. Dior Homme Intense, a great designer fragrance, and for $75, the original retail price for 100 milliliters, I bought this for. That is awesome for something that is this unique, this new. When this came out, is for a designer release, this is not something you're going to find too many others of. The Iris Cocoa combination, a little bit of vanilla in there, really does well. Really, really does well. And for an eau de parfum from a designer, for men, that you can't beat. You're getting quality with this, and you're not paying a lot of money. And that is where designer fragrances can be really good compared to niche. Because if they put this in a niche bottle, if this was repackaged by Tom Ford and put in one of these bottles, he could sell it just the same and probably make the same amount of money, and it would be very believable as a private blend. Same with if it were a Bond or a Creed or whatever. But they package this as a designer, $75. Great buy. And Dior's a great name. I mean, in the designer game, it's really, one of the top houses out there. And this is another one from their line, which is an example of a great designer fragrance, Fahrenheit. This is probably the most timeless fragrance I've ever come across. It came out in 1988, still one of the top sellers today. I mean, when you think about that, something that, when it came out, it was groundbreaking. To have a fragrance with petroleum, an oil-like vibe to it, that was just not been done before. And the fact that it's still out today, yeah, it's been reformulated once or twice. And this bottle is quite old, actually. This is from 2003 or 04. Great fragrance. Something you really can't get anywhere else, and you can get it at a great price too. You can get this on the secondary market really cheap. You can pay $50 or $60 and get a full 100 milliliter bottle. Great price, great juice. That is the advantage of designer. Another example of a good designer, so I'm not only harping on Dior. This one's a little bit, some people don't like this, John Varvatos. I like it only because of what he did when he created, when Rodrigo Flores created this, using a very different set of notes that really hadn't been done in designer. A lot of, I don't have the notes in front of me, but it does come off a little bit synthetic, but this is not something that if you walk around a Macy's, you're not going to find others that smell like this. That's the downside of designers. I use that as a nice segue into my bad designer category. The problem with designers is that you get so many that smell the same, that are marketed to the mass consumer, average Joe Macy's shopper. You've heard me use that term before. The average Joe Macy's shopper just wants to smell good. There's nothing wrong with that. Problem is, the fragrances generally end up sucking and they become redundant. Not necessarily across the same house, but you get the point. Case in point, Chrome. This is the epitome of average Joe consumer, Macy's shopper, just want to smell good fragrance. This is going to please everybody. Nobody is going to be turned off by Chrome. They're not going to smell Chrome and think, oh God, that's terrible, I can't stand that. That will happen with Moss Fresh. It might even happen a little bit with, not Fahrenheit, with some of these Montals. That will not happen with this. This is as safe as you can go. You just want to smell good, smell pleasing, get this. Problem is, you're going to smell like everybody else. And the ingredients in this really are junk. Very synthetic, very sharp in a bad way. You get these, this isn't off-putting to me, but it's off-putting in the sense that it's so poorly done. I got this bottle for, I think it was $15. I don't know why I bought it. But you get these redundant releases, like these flankers that come out all the time. That is I hate flankers. Usually I hate flankers. This is an example, Dior, of a flanker that was that does not fall into that category. Like recently, I just smelled the new Chanel Allure Homme Sport Extreme, a flanker of a flanker. Jeez. And it smelled like everything else. There's nothing differentiating it from another sport fragrance or another thing. I could walk around to the other side of the counter in Macy's and find something that smelled exactly the same, or just, a couple of notes off. That's the problem with designer fragrances, is so many of them are so similar, and there's so many sport this, like summer version that just end up becoming redundant releases that are really a waste of money. Buy one that you like and you're set. That's probably the best advice I could give you with designer, is if you want a sport fragrance, buy one. Don't buy multiple ones, because inevitably they will be the same. And the problem is you get a lot of different people buying them. You're not smelling unique. You're not differentiating yourself from the crowd. When you start wearing these, you can walk around and wear chrome, you're going to find 100 other people who wear it. You wear chrome on a first date, you run a huge risk of that girl or that guy or whoever saying, "Oh, gee, you smell like my ex." You wear something like I wouldn't recommend Moss Brush on a first date. If you wear a niche on a first date, much lower chance of that happening. Much lower chance. Now, the same can also be said for something like a Dior Homme Intense, even a John Varvatos. Fahrenheit, maybe not as much because it's been around for so long. But you may not pay as much for these, but you're not getting anything for it. You're paying a little bit of money for junk. You're paying a little bit of money to smell like everyone else, to get very poorly constructed fragrances that are safe, that aren't designed to be good. They're just designed to make money. To make money off people who really don't care exactly what they smell like, only just that they smell good. I know some people like this fragrance, but the Gucci Guilty Wearers, that is the epitome of a high-quality brand just wanting to make money by putting out something that people want just to smell good and to be able to say they're wearing Gucci. Fragrance is a way for a lot of people to get their hands on very high-quality names. Dior, John Varvatos, Gucci. Normally those brands, their clothes, their accessories are exorbitantly high-priced and not available to the mass market. You will not find anything else from Christian Dior in Macy's other than fragrance and makeup. You won't find his clothes. You have to go to a much higher-end store or to a Dior boutique, and you will be paying thousands of dollars. Whereas you can buy a bottle of Fahrenheit, or you can buy Gucci Guilty for $70 and get a Gucci. And a guy can go up to a girl and say, "Hey, I'm wearing Gucci." But is it really a quality product? In my opinion, no. It's a safe, money-making fragrance that is not designed to be new. It is not designed to elicit a new part of the fragrance game, the fragrance industry. It's not designed to break any new ground. It's just designed to smell good and to appeal to the average shopper. If that's what you want, that's fine. And that's what, you should be going for. But if you want to smell different, if you want to smell unique, if you don't want to risk going on a first date and having that person say, "You smell like my ex," or walking into a club and smelling like 50 other guys there, the designer route generally is not the way to go. There are some exceptions to that. It's not the way to go. Now, if you can find those exceptions, the Dior Homme Intense, John Varvatos, a couple of the Muglers, that's where the designer side of the game really can be a great place to go if you're on a budget. So if you want to stay on the budget and you don't necessarily want to go to niche because you may not have the money, you may not, and most people don't. all of my designer bottles I got through splits, which is a great way to get niche bottles for a lower price. A lot of people, most, do not have the money to straight up buy a collection of niche bottles. Maybe one, maybe two. And I certainly fall into that category myself. But I also don't want to waste my money. Most of my designer bottles that I have, the ones that I wear, I try and stick to the ones that are more on the unique side, the ones that really are great buys, that I know are quality fragrances. I don't care if they're niche or designer. I just care that the juice is good. That's something that really appeals to me. It's something that is different and that'll challenge my nose to figure out what's in it. And that if I wear it out somewhere, I'm not going to smell like every other person I walk by on the street. So if you want to stay on the budget, if you don't want to go into the niche side, or you don't have, you want to stay away from that, you think it might be, too snobby for you or whatever, that's understandable. And for a while I was like that as well. And to an extent I still am. There are some who only buy niche because they're niche, and I don't think that that's a good way to go about it. Not at all. Just because it's niche does not mean it's a good fragrance. Find the gems in the designer fragrances. Do your research. Look into them. Test them out. Don't let the people at Macy's, shove the new Dolce & Gabbana, the one sport on you. Whatever one, because they're not pushing quality fragrance. They're pushing what's going to make them money. They're pushing what the companies want them to sell. And that's not a way to buy fragrance. Test them out. A great place to go for something like that would be a Sephora. Selection is generally pretty good. They are very hands-off in my experiences with them. They're very good with giving out samples. It's a great place to go to try out different things and figure out one that maybe a lot of other people haven't found yet, or maybe one that you think can really work for you, one that isn't just a just smell good fragrance but has some very different notes in it, has some different spins for you. One that you don't think a lot of people are going to go for and that you really like, and it's at a good price. That's a good place to go for that. Stay away from Macy's. I hate Macy's, if you haven't figured that out by now. So that's that. I just rambled on for 28 minutes now. If you've stayed with me for this long, thank you. You deserve a medal for that. I'll try and keep these a little bit shorter in the future, but this is a topic that deserves a lot of time, deserves a lot of attention to it, and it's good to continue it. So if you have any thoughts on the subject, please feel free to comment below. As always, I will try and respond to as many as I can, and to continue the discussion. I think that's really what's most important here. Continue the discussion. And that's what I'm trying to continue to do with these Fireside fragrance chats. Continue the discussion and hopefully be able to further inform more people in the community and those who may be new. So, thank you for putting up with this long video, and I will see you all soon.